Married with Children was one of the most famous and controversial sitcoms in American television history. It first aired in the late 1980s and quickly became known for its bold humor, unusual family story, and characters who were very different from the perfect families shown on TV at that time. The show focused on the Bundy family, where Ed O'Neill played the role of Al Bundy, a tired and sarcastic shoe salesman who often complained about his life. Christina Applegate played Kelly Bundy, his teenage daughter, who became one of the most recognizable characters in the series. The show was funny, but also shocking for many viewers because it often pushed boundaries with its jokes and storylines. While audiences saw comedy on screen, the real-life experiences of the actors behind the scenes were much more human and emotional. Over time, the bond between the cast members became just as important as the show itself. What started as a simple sitcom slowly turned into a long-lasting chapter in television history that shaped the careers of everyone involved, especially Christina Applegate and Ed O'Neill. Christina Applegate entered Married with Children at a very young age. She was only about 15 years old when she began working on the show. This meant she was still a teenager, learning about life, while also working in a professional Hollywood environment. Being on a major television set at that age was not easy. She had to act in front of cameras, follow scripts, and work long hours, all while still growing up emotionally and mentally. The role of Kelly Bundy made her famous, but it also placed her in a very adult world. The show often used mature humor, and her character was sometimes written in ways that required her to handle uncomfortable situations. During this time, Ed O'Neill, who was much older and more experienced, became an important presence in her life on set. He had already been working in acting for years and understood how stressful the industry could be. For Christina, having someone steady and calm around her made a big difference. She was still learning how to handle fame, pressure, and attention, while also trying to enjoy her teenage years. This early experience shaped her not only as an actress, but also as a person who had to grow up quickly in a very public environment. As the show continued, the relationship between Christina Applegate and Ed O'Neill became more than just co-stars working together. On screen, they played father and daughter, but off-screen, a natural bond started to form. Ed was known for being calm, observant, and protective in his own quiet way. He did not try to make big public statements or draw attention to himself for helping others. Instead, he simply acted when needed. According to many behind-the-scenes accounts, he often made sure younger cast members, especially Christina, felt comfortable and safe during filming. If a scene felt awkward or uncomfortable, he would stay nearby or step in when necessary. This created a sense of stability for Christina during a time when she was still very young and dealing with sudden fame. The entertainment industry can sometimes feel overwhelming, especially for teenagers, but having someone experienced nearby helped her adjust. Over time, trust developed naturally between them. It was not forced or dramatic, but built slowly through years of working together. This quiet support became one of the most important parts of her early career, even if it was not always visible to the audience watching at home. As Married with Children became more popular, the pressure around the show also increased. The sitcom was often controversial because it did not follow traditional family values seen on television at the time. Some people loved its humor, while others criticized it strongly. At one point, the show even faced public backlash and threats of boycott, which created uncertainty for the cast and crew. Despite this, the show continued and even grew more successful. For Christina Applegate, this meant growing up in an environment filled with both fame and pressure. She had to deal with public attention while still learning who she was as a person. Ed O'Neill, already experienced in handling the ups and downs of Hollywood, helped keep things grounded. He was not loud about it, but he provided emotional stability during uncertain moments. When stress increased on set, especially during controversy, he often reminded younger cast members that they had created something special. This helped the team stay united. Even though the show was built on comedy and exaggeration, the real-life experience behind it involved hard work, long hours, and emotional challenges. Still, the cast stayed together through it all, forming strong bonds that lasted far beyond the show itself. Years after Married with Children ended, Christina Applegate continued her career in television and film. She appeared in many successful projects and became known as a talented and respected actress. However, her life changed dramatically when she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, MS, in 2021. This disease affects the nervous system and can make movement, balance, and daily activities very difficult. The diagnosis was life-changing for her. She began experiencing physical challenges such as difficulty walking and fatigue. Over time, she started using a cane to help her move safely. This was not just a physical struggle, but also an emotional one. She often spoke about how difficult it was to adjust to a body that no longer worked the way it used to. Simple tasks became harder, and her career had to slow down. During this difficult period, memories of her early years on Married with Children became even more meaningful. The support system she had built during that time, especially her connection with former cast members, became an important source of comfort. Life had changed, but the relationships from her past remained strong and supportive. After Christina Applegate's diagnosis, many people from her past work life reached out to support her, including Ed O'Neill. The same person who had once been a steady presence during her teenage years again became someone she could rely on. Their bond, built decades earlier, did not disappear with time. Instead, it remained strong even after the show ended. Ed's support was not public or dramatic. It was quiet and personal, showing care through private conversations and check-ins. Other cast members from Married with Children also expressed their love and encouragement. This showed that the connection they built on set was more than just acting. It became a lifelong friendship. Christina also received major public support during important moments, such as her Hollywood Walk of Fame star ceremony and her emotional appearance at the Emmy Awards. These moments showed her strength and resilience despite her health struggles. Looking back, Christina has often expressed that Married with Children gave her more than fame. It gave her a second family, people who stayed in her life long after the cameras stopped rolling. The story of Christina Applegate and Ed O'Neill is not about drama or scandal, but about loyalty, growth, and lasting human connection that began on a television set and continued into real life. As Married with Children grew into a huge success, Christina Applegate's life changed in ways she could never fully predict. She went from being a normal teenager to a well-known face across America. People recognized her everywhere, and her character Kelly Bundy became a cultural icon. While this fame brought many opportunities, it also brought pressure. Being famous at a young age can feel exciting at first, but it also removes privacy and normal teenage freedom. Christina had to grow up in front of the public eye, which is not easy for anyone, especially someone still learning who they are. She was often seen as a comedic character on screen, but in real life, she was still figuring out adulthood. This mix of public attention and personal growth created challenges that only a few people around her truly understood. Ed O'Neill's presence helped balance this pressure in small but meaningful ways. He was someone who did not treat fame as something special. Instead, he stayed focused on the work and the people around him. This helped Christina stay grounded during a time when everything around her was changing quickly. Even though she was part of one of the most popular shows on television, she still needed stability, and that came from the people she trusted on set. When Married with Children finally ended, it did not end with a big emotional farewell. There was no dramatic goodbye scene or final group celebration. Instead, the show simply finished its production schedule, and everyone moved on with their lives. This quiet ending surprised many fans, but for the cast, it felt natural after so many years together. Christina Applegate moved on to new acting projects and continued building her career in Hollywood. Ed O'Neill also continued acting and later became part of another successful television series. As time passed, their daily contact became less frequent, as often happens in the entertainment industry. People moved to different projects, different cities, and different routines. However, even though they were no longer working together every day, the bond they built did not disappear. It stayed in the background, like a strong memory that never fully fades. They had spent more than a decade working side by side, which creates a type of connection that is not easily replaced. While the world moved forward, their shared history remained an important part of their lives. It was not something they talked about every day, but it was always there, quietly shaping how they saw each other even years later. Many years after the show ended, Christina Applegate faced one of the hardest challenges of her life when she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. This condition affects the nervous system and can slowly change how a person moves and functions. For someone whose life had been built around acting, movement, and performance, this diagnosis was deeply life-changing. At first, she noticed small changes in her body, such as balance problems and fatigue. Over time, these symptoms became more serious, affecting her ability to work and move comfortably. She eventually began using a cane to help her walk safely. This was not just a physical adjustment, but also an emotional one. She had to accept a new version of her life, one that was very different from what she had known before. Christina spoke openly about the emotional difficulty of this journey. She described it as a process of letting go of her old self while trying to accept her new reality. Many fans were shocked by her diagnosis, but they also admired her honesty and courage. Instead of hiding her condition, she chose to talk about it publicly, helping others understand what living with MS is really like. This openness made her even more respected in the public eye. During her health struggles, something unexpected happened. The people from her past, especially those from Married with Children, began to reconnect with her in meaningful ways. Among them, Ed O'Neill stood out once again. The same person who had supported her as a teenager now reached out to support her as an adult facing serious health challenges. Their connection had not disappeared over time. Instead, it had quietly remained in place, ready to continue when needed. Ed's support was not public or attention-seeking. He did not make big announcements or dramatic statements. Instead, he showed care in a simple and personal way through private messages, phone calls, and emotional support. This kind of quiet loyalty meant a lot to Christina. It showed that their bond was not based only on work or fame, but on genuine human connection. Other cast members also showed support, reminding her that she was not alone. This renewed connection gave Christina emotional strength during a very difficult period in her life. It also reminded fans that sometimes the strongest relationships in Hollywood are not the ones seen on screen, but the ones built quietly behind the scenes over many years. Despite her health challenges, Christina Applegate continued to appear in public during important moments, showing incredible strength. One of the most emotional moments was when she received her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. She arrived with a cane, moving slowly, but she stood proudly in front of fans, friends, and colleagues. The event was filled with love and support, and many people were deeply emotional watching her. She spoke honestly about her journey, her struggles, and the people who had supported her through everything. Another powerful moment came when she appeared at the Emmy Awards, where she received a standing ovation from the entire audience. The applause lasted for a long time, showing how much respect and admiration people had for her. Even in that emotional moment, she used humor to connect with the audience, showing that her personality had not changed despite everything she had been through. These appearances showed not just her struggle, but also her resilience. She continued to face life with honesty, courage, and humor, even when things were difficult. Looking back at her entire journey, Christina Applegate has often reflected on how much Married with Children shaped her life. It was more than just a television show for her. It was a place where she grew up, learned about life, and formed lifelong relationships. The bond she shared with Ed O'Neill and the rest of the cast became one of the most important parts of her story. Even though fame, time, and life changes have affected everyone differently, the emotional connection they built remains strong. It is rare in Hollywood for relationships to last this long, especially after a show ends. But in this case, the connection survived because it was built on trust, respect, and shared experience. Christina's journey shows that behind every famous show, there are real human stories that continue long after the cameras stop. Her life today reflects both struggle and strength, but also gratitude for the people who stood by her. In the end, the story is not just about a sitcom or a career, but about loyalty, friendship, and the quiet support that can last a lifetime. As the years passed, both Christina Applegate and Ed O'Neill looked back at Married with Children with a different kind of understanding. When they were filming the show, it was just their daily job. They had long shooting hours, scripts to memorize, and scenes to perform. But with time, they began to see how important that period of their lives really was. What once felt like a busy work routine slowly turned into a meaningful chapter in their personal history. Christina, in particular, realized that the show was not only her breakthrough, but also her foundation in life. It was where she learned discipline, confidence, and emotional strength. Ed O'Neill also saw how much the experience shaped him as an actor and as a person. Looking back, both of them understood that they had been part of something much bigger than just a sitcom. It had influenced pop culture, challenged television rules, and created characters that people still remember decades later. But beyond fame and success, what stayed with them most was the human connection they built during those years. Time made them appreciate not just what they achieved, but who they became because of it. One of the most powerful ideas that comes out of Christina Applegate's story is the meaning of family. On Married with Children, the Bundy family was loud, chaotic, and often funny in a dysfunctional way. But behind the scenes, something more genuine was forming. The cast spent years together, sharing long days, stressful shoots, and personal moments. Over time, they stopped seeing each other only as coworkers and started seeing each other as a kind of family. This idea became even more meaningful when real-life challenges appeared later. When Christina faced her MS diagnosis,